home ownership opportunities, and the criteria might be a little different. Maybe we'll do another edition or a revision to this. Is there a motion?
So yeah, I guess we'll talk about that. Who's talking about this?
I do. It's Don's.
Yeah. Oh, you live next door to that dog.
I just met her though.
That came up because I've always been thinking about our law in terms of rental units. Mm-hmm. But then when we went and talked to the town, it could be a development of 10 houses and one house needs to be affordable.
Correct.
So,
and obviously this is not forever. This is just for now.
Right. I'm just saying we could just wipe the rental here because do we differentiate in our law? Okay, so it is appropriate.
Yeah,
to say rental here.
the criteria is different.
So that was where I was going with that background.
Right. Yeah, no, the criteria is different for rental versus home ownership, and this is states it properly.
So the income criteria?
The income is correct here.
Okay.
Because for home ownership, our law is up to 100% of AMI.
Okay, that was my next question.
Yeah. Okay.
So do we want to put that on there then, or is that?
No, I think because we're not developing home ownership right now, it's probably unnecessary to draw attention to that aspect of the law, and that we'll want to do that when that time comes.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So in my assessment, not only is it good, it's good enough. And thank you, Dan, for all of your hard work. And is there a motion that we approve this? Yes. Is there a second? All in favor? Aye. Done deal. Which raises something of a question of how it will be printed and disseminated. I'm going to ask our liaison to...
did we want to move it to the translation stage?
That's another step.
That's another bullet point.
Yeah, we definitely want it in Spanish.
And then that was a great idea to have it on the reverse printed Spanish, so you can just
back to back
bring out the stack.
Oh yeah.
Right, you weren't going to translate that, I think. Can you?
I could. I'm not fluent in Spanish. But
Jen, is that something you
have resources?
Yeah, I can do the Spanish.
You want to do that?
Yeah.
Can we do that? Get you that language so you can set it up in font and typeface and all that kind of good stuff?
I think the easiest way to do that would probably just translate. You just even do it in the email. Just look at the original and just translate them, and I can just change it in the same format and fonts and everything that it already is. Just type it in Spanish. As it's set up as you see it.
Great.
And then it'll be easier for you because you don't have to mess with the whole PDF or the Word document.
Yeah, it's not
I'm
a lot
assuming
of text.
that won't really require another action at our meeting if you guys can just do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and get it back to me and for now KT, and we'll discuss how to get it printed and distributed and put on the website and all that kind of good stuff. So with that said, thank you. So we've covered the print media and the Spanish translation. Excellent. Okay, so let's see. The next item concerns the Zero Place, the net zero project at 8791.
Social media Facebook page.
Pardon me?
You skipped Facebook page. I
don't think there's anything particularly to discuss, but is there for anybody?
I can do a quick snapshot of how many
likes we have?
likes we have.
Okay. I know that I think it's 80, if I'm not mistaken.
The teenagers laughing at us. Like County.
80 right on the 82 followers.
Oh.
80
Like us on
likes.
Facebook. What's it called exactly?
Village of New Paltz Affordable Housing. Sorry, Village of New Paltz, New York Affordable Housing. At Affordable New Paltz.
Okay.
Okay, done deal.
It was on there.
Yeah,
You were cruising.
that's fine. Time to move on. Let's see. I have no comment, no communication from the planning board concerning Zero Place. I sent some communication to the planning board with the approval of the Affordable Housing Board, commenting on the request for a revision of the site plan and the specific units identified for the affordable housing units. I've shared a copy of that with all of you. I'm just glad that your attention. Any comments about any of those? Either of those?
So it's just a recommendation to the planning committee
Correct.
or planning board that
Yeah.
they make that recommendation to the developer, or?
Exactly. It's really up to them to approve that, and I asked them to, that I basically was providing them information from us that the change in units from one up and one down to both of them on the lower level would be completely consistent with our law and would be appropriate for seniors who are aging in place. And that was our comment, and we had no objection to it. Are there any other questions or comments about that?
Which one was, that was for the Ridge, right?
That was for the Ridge.
Okay.
I realize now that I have cruised over another bit of marketing material here, which isn't formally on the agenda, but that's the FAQs.
New business? I guess not.
Pardon? I'm sorry.
Oh, I thought maybe that fell under new business.
So I emailed everybody this. I did a first draft guide, added to it. This is just the outline. Now we're gonna fill in the blanks. So hopefully by the next meeting, we'll have filled in the blanks for y'all to review. And then once we have that, we can put it on the website.
Right, so FAQs are a handy tool to disseminate information about the law and our activities, and to provide sort of a good data source for people who would like to understand our law and what we're doing. So I'm wondering if there's a volunteer on the board in addition to me who would like to play a role in working on this document and answering the questions that we've asked.
Maybe we
And
want
contributing to
to
this.
split up a couple of the numbers.
We could absolutely do that.
Sure.
And also, I know you only got this yesterday or whenever I sent it. If there's other things that are
Right.
missing, we
Sure.
can add.
So I'm wondering if we want to put this into like a Google Doc.
It's in a Google Doc.
It
I
is,
can just
it
add
is.
people if they so
Yeah.
desire.
So I think that would be great.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any objection to adding all of us to work on this?
No. Does everybody understand how to do track changes in Google Docs? It's a little different.
No, but I'm going to be missing for the next 2.5 weeks,
Okay.
basically.
Okay.
Just get back before whenever our meeting is.
Okay,
That's fine.
that'll be fine.
I can give you a little tutorial
Good.
if you so desire.
Thank you very much. That would be good.
And we won't publish this until we bring it back to the board and make sure everybody's comfortable with what we're saying and also what we're asking. So with that said, we're going to set this up in Google Docs. It doesn't really require an action from us now, but we'll work on that, not in a group, but individually on a common document, bring it back to the board, and then we'll be able to look at it and make any final revisions and approve it. Okay?
Sounds good.
Cool. So we'll have that on the agenda at the next meeting. Okay, with that said, there is an item on our agenda concerning the consideration of the Town and Village Affordable Housing Board as a concept, which I made a presentation about to a joint town-village board meeting on the 19th. And I believe I shared with all of you, circulated with the agenda, a copy of the document I presented to them concerning the considerations that we would want to address for a sort of an intermunicipal effort on affordable housing. And I wanted to just bring you guys up to speed, make sure that you had a chance to talk about that if you wanted to, and ask you for your thoughts as a discussion item. So the first part of this refers to the town draft comprehensive plan, and identified those parts of that plan that they could hang their hat on if they wished to undertake this project with us. And then I went through the different parts of our law that we would need to think about changing, customizing, or adding to accommodate the town in this enterprise. So, with that said, it's pretty straightforward in terms of the kinds of questions that we wanted to ask. And I wonder if you have any other thoughts about what I missed. What I missed? What should we add to this? Are there other considerations that you folks have? Hearing none, we can move on. It's a
pretty
discussion
dense.
item.
Yes,
So
it is.
there's definitely, I'm thinking right now, one thing I can do is, I'll look for the timestamp on the town village meeting on YouTube to see when the discussion starts. So if you're so inclined, you can see the discussion that we had. And I'll get the timestamp so you don't have to watch the whole meeting.
I would say it was a constructive.
Most of the things that Guy thought would came up.
Mhm.
I don't think there was anything necessarily new, but we could talk about how we want to move things forward.
Well, that's kind of the open question. I thought and suggested that maybe a committee, task force, working group, something could be convened that would be involving representation from both the town and the village to just come forward and kind of to open the hood on the current law and think about what those sections are that we would want to add. Come up with sort of just a citizens committee to put it together. And then we would share it in concept with both boards again at a future joint meeting, at which point it would then probably fly into the hands of attorneys to hammer out into versions that would fit their code.
So is the idea that law would be combined, or they would have a separate law that would kind of
I
not
think
be
that's kind of an
conflict
open
with
question.
ours?
I think the goal is to replicate ours in every way possible, but customize it to the town because they have different land use wherever possible. So for simplicity, keep it the same as much as possible, but because they do have different types of development, to modify it to reflect that. And also they have concerns about, excuse me if I feel a sneeze.
God bless you.
That we, I can't remember exactly what we do with the recreation fee, how much we.
Yeah, there was some discussion.
But we have
I
a
don't know
much
what that
lower
was.
rec fee than the town does, so that might be one place. But then that sort of spiraled into another conversation about rec fees.
There are opportunities for both municipalities, it sounds like, to improve their administration of those requirements with land use approvals, which has nothing to do with us. So I guess I wanted to share with you what I did tonight, and I did share with them, which is I did some research to see if I could find a model of an intermunicipal affordable housing law where a board was established that served, kind of two zoning codes. And I came up with nothing. I couldn't find a model anywhere in New York State, or frankly, the closest thing I found was a model that came out of New Jersey having to do with fair share housing. And because that law was really imposed on every county at the state level, it had a different kind of opportunity for there to be collaborations because folks were able to create intermunicipal laws because the law was basically already, imposed on them at another level of government. So that said, I didn't find anything that was instructive to this effort as it related to different zoning codes. So that's the big challenge. Yeah, that's the big challenge.
So-
We'll figure it out.
I mean, how we move this forward, the town sort of wanted to have a conversation about that as well. I kind of thought that if we envision that this board is going to be expanded to include the town, that they could appoint 2 people, a board member and or not appoint a board member, but appoint 2 people and a board member as a liaison. And we could work at it as a group, or we could subset off, or it could be something completely different.
Sure.
I hope we don't get mired in figuring out the composition of how this is going to get moved
So,
forward.
the town and the village share the same name, but the municipalities have slightly different cultures and certainly entirely different zoning codes. And from that perspective, the village is an urban community, and the town is a suburban and rural community. And so there are real differences there between how their land use policies collaborate with the land use policies in the village. We could talk about this, and there are all kinds of criteria that could be addressed. There are many different ways to skin the cat here, posing no ill will to felines by that careless comment. And I think that we can figure that out, but I don't know the answers to those questions. I was just trying to raise them for the consideration of the group. So there may be an opportunity at some point in the near future, I hope, to participate in a meeting about that. I don't know that meeting will take place in Village Hall or Town Hall, or whether it's separate from the work that we necessarily do here at our board. I think it probably is.
Mm-hmm.
But,
and I believe they'll have it on their next agenda. If not, I'll nudge them and just say, what do you want to do? We await your guidance.
okay. So I don't think there's very much more to talk about that. Stay tuned.
But overall, I mean, everyone on the board said, yes, we want to do this, let's move this forward. So I think that's noteworthy.
That's great.
Because
I was going to ask that.
sometimes, there was no time spent convincing about the large concept. It's just the details. So I thought that is a win for us.
I think so too. I think that the question was just how,
Yep.
not if or why, so it's a good thing. So who knows where this will land?
So that could be one of the first joint municipality affordable housing projects kind of.
Theoretically, that would be the case. And not only that, but what's interesting about it is that we, in addition to forging the first thing of its type in that regard, it would really represent, I think, a new era of collaboration between the town and village on this kind of level.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's really ever been done on a land use level like this. That's kind of cool. In fact, in the past,
First in New Paltz.
in the past, there have been real challenges. Bye. In the challenges, she's leaving with that man. Do you know him?
Yes.
Okay.
She knows him too.
Good.
No stranger danger.
Yes. If you see something, say something. Anyway, we'll see what happens with that. But it could be a really interesting conversation to have. And
That's great.
let's see. An executive session this evening is unnecessary, but there have been no new applications or communications from the public for us to address. There is no affordable housing vacancy at this time unless we wish to have an alternate. And so.
But Dan threatened to leave us soon.
Well,
so.
he's
That's
threatening
not
to.
happening now. So.
Aw.
He's threatening, and he's still threatening.
Okay.
But after this, then you can look in the town too. And remain.
It's true. That is true.
In fact, you could be one of the
Does it
two
make
new
it
people.
easier? No. It does not make it easier.
That's why we're here.
It's certainly an incentive one way or the other. Let's see.
Is there any update about the net zero?
I haven't had a communication from the planning board, and whenever I receive those, I usually transmit
They
them to
are in
everybody.
site plan review now. I do know that.
Yeah. So, we haven't communicated to the planning board about that project since the questions about lead agency came up. And I would expect that at some point with the revised plan, I don't know how heavily revised that plan is, that'll be referred back to us by the planning board.
Do you need to poke them at all?
I can ask Michael. I
Okay.
can send him a note. And so with that said, is there any old business to bring up tonight to discuss? Hearing none, is there any new business to discuss?
Okay, one question, I'm not sure if it's old or new. When we revise the flyer, where are we gonna place them? I was just wondering. Did we make,
No, it was not.
Oh, right, you
Yeah.
didn't finish the thought there. Were you
Yeah.
gonna ask me for printing?
I was going to ask you about printing, but I figured I could wait for a bit until we actually had the final with the translated back on it. So,
right,
All right, well,
but there was a list brainstormed a while back that I can produce, and then we can revise it
Okay.
and further
Okay.
that conversation once we have the final ready to go.
right,
Okay? But immediately we would want it on village website and social media and all that kind of good stuff.
yeah, we need
And,
to wait for electronic,
Right.
right?
Right. But we ultimately want this produced on paper and circulated in the traditional ways that flyers are circulated in the community. Okay?
Yep.
Is there any other question about that?
no,
Okay,
that's
makes
good.
sense.
And when we have it, I'm sure we'll go over it.
Okay.
Maybe since we don't have executive session, you can tell our audience what we typically go into executive session for.
Okay, so we only go into an executive session here when we have an application from an individual who wishes to be added to the list of folks eligible for affordable housing in the community. And we do that only because the application includes private information about them, their place of employment, and their income, and so forth. And so we certainly respect and protect their privacy about that, and that's why we go into executive session.
I don't know if they know what
When
executive session
we
is.
do you know what executive session is? Executive session is when we kick you out, and we talk about it privately, okay? It's in a dome of silence, so that the public isn't able to see that private information from those applicants. And that's a good thing. So with that said, new business being, the next question is proposed next meeting date, which I believe is Tuesday, October 24th.
That's what it normally would
That
be.
is what it normally would be. Is everybody comfortable with that?
Yep.
And that would be at our regular time, 6:30. And with that said, is there anything else that anyone would like to talk about? With that said, is there a motion to adjourn?
Yes.
Is there a second?
Yes.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
And we are adjourned.
All right, I gotta get Alex to do you want to flip that switch?
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
See how easy that was? Do you have a question about what we were doing? Miles, it was uglier than ever.